Welcome to episode 32 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. My name is William Fitzpatrick, and happy almost Halloween, folks. Today's show is called Invasion of the Garbage Trucks. In stereoscopic 3D, where available.
Yeah, we have all these cheap. We'll get all like the little cheap red and blue 3D glasses. We'll get a popcorn maker. It'll be a really fun time. We should just get like a giant white sheet, get an old projector, and start showing some old Halloween movies. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we had a little bit of delay in this week's episode because Sal got trapped in an art museum and had to go for a 24-episode anime plot.
Yes. Sorry, guys. It was a very nice trip to the DIA, though. Again, like you said, art museum, the Detroit Institute of Arts. I have an art history class right now, and one of our assignments for it involves us having to go to the DIA and look at a bunch of paintings and write a little paper thingy on them. So I had to go to the DIA. And if you're ever in Detroit, I would actually really recommend going to it. It's a very nice museum. We have a lot of nice paintings there. We have one of Rodin's thinkers. We have a couple Picassos, a couple Van Goghs. We also have a very extensive and very nice African-American art exhibit. One of the first prominent museums to actually have that, too. Really nice one, too. So, you know.
Also, intergalactic portals that take you to another dimension, which is why Sal's been missing for 2 days.
Yes. Ironically, though, when you said anime, this just reminded me of this. The DIA has an art, like an amphitheater thing where they show films. You know what they're showing there? Your Name on November 4th and 5th.
Ah, I see.
I know. I saw that when I went there. I'm like, they're showing this? I might have to come back here next weekend. So.
Yes, well, while Sal was trapped in the art museum, we are covering today TLC, a show that was thrown together at the last minute because, as we talked about last week with Takers Beanian and MDS, because they were guests on our show last week, there was a bubonic plague that hit WWE's roster. Known conspiracy theorist Bo Dallas is still in the containment shed. Bray Wyatt is nowhere to be found, and the beloved Roman Reigns has apparently found the one thing that can take him down besides, well, I guess the wrestling gods decided to get vengeance on him after spilling the blood of John Cena all through the streets of Rome.
Yeah, but, you know, the plague taketh and the plague giveth and the plague taketh away. On the one hand, the plague took away Bray Wyatt. Thank you, Lord. On the other hand, it took away Roman Reigns. So,
on the one hand, oh God, you took away Bray Wyatt. On the other hand, oh God, you replaced him with AJ Styles. I know most people would find that to be an exciting proposition, but for those who don't know about my like, dislike, indifferent to, and hate list, there are only 2 wrestlers currently remaining on the hate list that are currently active. It's Seth and AJ, as I've discussed in the past.
Come on, man. AJ has to be off the list now. He hasn't built up enough good karma yet.
You know, he needs to make sure not to retweet radical, insane, crazy people who are heavily religious. But it's, you know, I know that AJ's a religious individual, and I respect that. It's just that sometimes he goes a little too far Georgia for my liking. I mean, as far he hasn't injured anybody in the last 2 years, which is positive, but still, I'm sticking to my guns. Same thing with Seth Rollins.
Right. I can respect that. I mean, yeah, that is kind of the downside to AJ. But getting into TLC, it was a show I didn't expect much from. And all in all, it was a fine show. You know what? I'll actually say this for it. It exceeded my expectations.
Wow.
One, because
your expectations.
Well, yes, they were a couple of reasons. One, they were incredibly low. 2, they replaced Bray Wyatt with AJ Styles, so that already that instantly makes it go up in my book. And 3, and most importantly, they sent the crowd home happy. In the year of pay-per-views of WWE, and how few of them send the crowd home happy, this is an amazing achievement that I will always applaud.
Yeah, I mean, same thing here. I mean, like, the thing is I've always been happy at the end of WWE pay-per-views, but then again, my reaction to things and the fans' reaction to things are going to be 2 very different subject matters, which is like, like, I see things from a logical perspective. A lot of people see things from an emotional perspective. And that's one of the things that I always try to remember to talk about during the shows is that, you know, don't necessarily have the same thought process as a lot of other folks do when it comes to wrestling shows and reviews, and it makes things interesting.
Yeah, I get why you look at it logically, and I also get why people look at it like more emotionally, mainly because for them this is a release. You know.
I mean, they've been watching this stuff since they were kids. For me,
Yeah.
I started watching this stuff in 2009 when I was almost 18 years old.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a bit different, but you know, the show itself. Now we had Sasha Banks defeating Alicia Fox via submission on the kickoff show. It was fine.
It continued the angle next week, which led to Alicia Fox leading the Survivor Series team for Team Raw after defeating Hugs and Boss.
Yeah,
this will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really care for Alicia beating Sasha and Bayley on Raw, mainly because it's more 50-50 booking. But spoiler alert, I didn't see this live because I turned it off after the Finn Kane stuff. But we'll get to that. Oh, wow, we'll get to that.
Oh, yes, we'll have two very different thought processes on that particular angle, which he didn't like, I liked, which that's a little spoiler for you folks. Just a heads up.
Yeah.
So,
any other thoughts on Sasha, Alicia, or?
I think, honestly, they're booking them fairly decently in this situation. I think Sasha is in a good position right now. She's got the Alicia Fox feud as a temporary sieve until she gets the actual feud, which is against either Asuka or against Bayley.
Yeah.
Which,
I have no idea if they're ever going to pull the trigger on that Bayley feud at this point. I mean,
I think
maybe
they will because the horsewomen thing looks dead in the water at this point. They look like
God.
Sure, it's a thank God at one hand. On the other hand, the only horsewoman left, it looks like, is Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. So we have switched that one, thank God, for a horsewomen versus horsewomen tag match. For the other, thank God of, oh, good Lord, it looks like it's going to be Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't like either of those options, but at least we're not getting both, whereas before it seemed like we would be getting both. At least this time we're only getting one of them. I mean, it's still not good, but we're reducing our punishment here.
And, of course, also Shayna Baszler did officially sign with WWE a few weeks ago. Just want to mention that to the audience.
Yep. So, you know, we got rid of the horsewoman versus horsewoman, which would have been an awful, awful, awful match. Because, I mean,
I don't know.
I think it would have been because, I mean, only one of them on the MMA horsewoman is trained in wrestling. I mean, Rousey might be a little bit, so maybe like 1.5. But, you know, that's not exactly going to be a good match when you have 4 women who are trained in wrestling going up against 4 women who going up against like 1 woman who is, 1 who might be, and 2 who are not.
Ooh, boy, it's going to be kind of awkward if you ever run into any MMA fighters who've converted to professional wrestling, dude, because I know some of them have had issues converting over to pro wrestling, but a lot of them are pretty successful, especially...
Well, no, I think a lot of them can be, but it's one of those things where it's like you need more than just like a month or 2 to do it. If they were planning on doing this, they should have had it done a lot in advance.
Sure.
I mean, like guys like Kazushi Sakuraba. He was a great MMA fighter. He's also done some pro wrestling. I mean, not Shinsuke has done both. I mean, I get it. Yeah, you can do both. I'm just saying you need more than a month.
Sure, and you're also forgetting the one guy who transitioned the best, which was Minoru Suzuki.
Oh, I didn't forget him. I was about to say him. Although I kind of don't really count him. Like, he did MMA, but his MMA style was mainly based off of catch wrestling. So, I mean, I guess you could say he counts, but at the same time, he kind of doesn't. You know, because he was a catch wrestler fighting in MMA. That was pretty much his style.
So we have the situation right now where we have the possible horsewomen angle being changed, and then in our next match, the many deaths of Emma.
Yeah, talk about perfect timing from WWE. Literally like 2 minutes before we came on air, we got the announcement that Emma has been released by WWE.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she has been released at 11:56 a.m., like about 4 or 5 minutes before the before our show aired. Emma got released by WWE, which is honestly not very surprising, given the fact that she has currently, I think, the second or third longest contract of any performer in WWE right now. And we knew that cuts were coming. And we knew that there were going to be cuts on the main roster, and it looks like Emma is the first person on the women's side of things to be released. So,
Yeah.
Sal, I want you to get your thoughts on this one first.
The match or Emma's firing, or both? Or releasing?
We're going to do both. Let's start with the match, and then we'll discuss Emma's,
Okay.
release.
I thought the match itself was pretty good. I mean, I felt it was a little long, and Emma got a little too much offense in, but that's really my only complaint. It kind of felt like it's pretty much like the couple issues I have with the Shinsuke debut match against Ziggler. You could pretty much apply them to here. Went a little too long. Emma got a little too much offense in. Didn't really make Asuka look as good as she could have in her first debut match. But all in all, it was fine and not as bad as the Ziggler match. But just like you could compare the two.
Mm-hmm. So about the and then they had the match on Raw, which Asuka won again, and then there was the Emma release, which we'll cover next.
Yeah, I mean the match on Raw, that was pretty much the same thing as this, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty much just a carbon copy of the match. So, and then the firing. I mean, I thought Emma was a very good performer. But I understand why she wanted to leave. She was very unhappy with her creative direction, and she's like, you know what? I don't want this. I think I can do better. Mm-hmm. And you know what? More power to her. Mm-hmm. I want people to go to where they can be the best they can be, whether that be in WWE, whether that be in New Japan, whether that be on the Indies, whether that be in Stardom, Shimmer, wherever. Mm-hmm. Go and do things where you can be the best. Mm-hmm. And I think this will work out better for Emma. I think she's very talented. I just don't think WWE was using her right. But that's just me.
I have a very different view of Emma, but then again, I have been consistent with my discussions of Emma in the past on podcasts in general, and oh boy. First, let's talk the match. I thought this was a solid match, and this was probably one of Emma's better matches. She did very well in the trying to not be afraid of the monster known as Asuka, even though that she was basically the horror movie victim that was inevitably going to get a knife stuck through her chest via the monster of destruction. Or in this case, have the entire log cabin be disintegrated via Godzilla's fire breath. Because it's Asuka we're talking about here, the Empress of Destruction. I don't know why they call her the Empress of Tomorrow, because she clearly is destroying everything in front of her and has ravaged a reign of destruction of 510 days as NXT Women's Champion. I felt as though that this was the best possible match that could have gone with Asuka and Emma. If you had done the squash match pattern, like a lot of other people are suggesting, they would have tired out of Asuka fairly quickly. If they went in the direction of giving her a legitimately decent opponent and Emma to shoot fight with, well, it worked out the way it did. I thought that this was a solid match. I thought it was enjoyable, but at the same time, I've never really been particularly high on Emma's matches, on Asuka's matches in WWE thus far, and that's because of the fact that I've seen her before. I've seen her hundreds of times on the Joshi side of things. So I'm used to Kana, not necessarily used to Asuka, but I feel that she's transitioning really well into WWE, and she might actually be one of the few success stories coming out of Japan over the next couple of years, along with Kairi Sane, because Kairi Sane has proven to be absolutely awesome in this role of WWE.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's because Kairi Sane, my pirate Princess Gokai Hime, she's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And she's also figured out that she's a lot better, I feel, than Io Shirai from a standpoint of wanting to save your health so that your main matches can actually be more memorable. It's the Akira Taru philosophy of match work. He was one of the 4 pillars of All Japan, and he's the one that is the least recognized of the 4. I feel like he's probably the best of the four because unlike the other three, he could actually still walk. Or in the case of Michiwa, he's not dead.
Wow. Jeez, that got dark.
I know, but that's the thing about Maharu Michiwa. The guy was a phenomenal in-ring worker, but the guy took risks with his health that unfortunately led to an in-ring death in Pro Wrestling Noah.
Yeah, it did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mean, I don't know how well she takes care of her health compared to Io Shirai. I'd have to ask friend of the show, Crazy Chris, on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he's the Joshi guy.
Yeah, he looks a lot. He's more into modern Joshi. I'm more into the 1990s style of Joshi wrestling from those time periods. And I feel, well, Io Shirai has a neck that is basically a stack of dimes, whereas Kari Hojo seems to be in much better condition. And the fact is that these Japanese performers, they really like working for WWE because it's a much softer style. It's a much more, they don't have to go full 100% in every single match. And I know in Japan that they protect people, but they don't have to do the extra long matches that they have to do in the openers, like the 20-minute opener.
Yeah, it can be a bit long, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So then we get to Emma. Look, I'm a person who doesn't like seeing people get fired or released, but we'll have to see what the circumstances of this release was. Did Emma personally request it? If she did, okay then. Then I can say, oh boy. Emma was one of the people that people said was a pioneer for the NXT women's division, and to a degree she was. She was a good in-ring worker. The trouble was, as I've said last week, she suffers from a syndrome known as LSS, Lance Storm Syndrome, where she seems to be more focused on impressing the boys and girls in the back than actually working the audience right in front of her. This same problem could also apply to Tyler Breeze, but thankfully the man has managed to mask it with the powers of comedy. Emma was always a worker that I always dreaded seeing coming out to the ring because I went, oh God, we have an good in-ring worker, but has a charisma of a loaf of bread. Very plain individual. Even with all the gimmicks masking up all of her lack of charisma, she does have some charisma, but it's good for international audiences. And this is a classic issue that a lot of the foreign talent, and Emma's from Australia, folks, have when working with an American audience. They don't really know how to react to this audience because they're more used to a lively crowd like the Australians, which basically is like Mad Max down there. So they're lively and loud and shout things. Whereas the American audience, yes, you'll get some crowds that are loud and obnoxious, but mostly it's families. Mostly it's families and kids, and they're a lot more well behaved than most groups of fans out there. And I don't want to, paint.
Are we really? I mean, at least in like Britain and stuff in Australia, yeah, they might be loud and rambunctious, and they might do a little bit of swearing, but at least they're not throwing beach balls during matches.
Sure. But like I said, I don't want to paint everybody with the same brush in this situation.
I get that. It's just, I get what you're saying. And yes, I feel like it would be more apt to say WWE crowds are a lot more quiet.
Because, well, you have situations where you have the audio control room, which for whatever reason has trouble displaying the sound. However, I heard a lot of loud chanting and a lot of loud noise because I was watching the Japanese version of TLC, folks. Just want to let you know once again, with the Japanese commentary team, because if I watched it with the English commentary team, I might go insane.
Oh, yeah, the English commentary, they had a bad night that night. Oh, my. Let's just say it was bad and leave it at that, because...
Was Booker T on commentary?
Yep.
Okay, there's your answer.
I love Booker to death. He was a great in-ring competitor, and even some of his commentary nowadays, it makes me chuckle a little bit, and it can be kind of entertaining. But yeah, not the best.
But regardless, Emma has been released from WWE, and I feel that it was a good decision on both parties' parts. Emma is a person who had returned recently from a back injury that she suffered. And before that, she also has the issues with one of her arms. She has apparently a pre-existing wrestling injury, which has been talked about before in the past by other folks, in one of her arms, which limits her mobility and limits her movement as far as in-ring stuff goes. I had noticed a decline in her ring work because of the repeated injuries that she had had. And it just wasn't really working out. The charisma wasn't there. The in-ring work was solid, but it was starting to decline badly. And let's see who they fill in for her role on Raw, because there's a lot of open spots right now, and there's also a lot of women right now in the NXT developmental side of things, and there's a lot of people who might be returning soon. So this is looking like a very interesting case of this works out well for both parties. For Emma, she gets to go to Shimmer and Shine, which she will probably be more comfortable in, or goes to Stardom, or goes back to Australia and works on some kind of cooking show of some kind.
Or hell, she might go over to Britain and work in Progress's women's division.
Mm-hmm.
Or in a combination of all of the above. Who knows at this point? So,
well, if she runs into Ginny, she's going to have to deal with the demon fashionista of Nightbridge.
she'll be fine.
You have never seen Ginny, have you?
No, but she'll be fine.
Oh, good Lord. You need to start watching some of Ginny's stuff.
I know I need to start watching some of her stuff in Progress in general. It's just...
I know. It's just a lot of wrestling. There's a lot of wrestling content out there.
A lot of wrestling content. It's another subscription I need to get. I honestly, seriously, I'm so down on WWE. I often wonder to myself, why do I even keep my network subscription?
Mm-hmm. Because there is a lot of content on the network. There's a lot of classic wrestling matches, and for me at least, it has been a worthwhile investment because I get to cover these WWE pay-per-views I never were able to cover before because of the fact that they were asking $60 for the dang things.
I know.
Years ago.
Yeah, so yeah, it is what it is. This is total first world problems here, by the way. Like, my God, I can't believe I don't have like the £7.50 to spend for Progress. Mm-hmm. I mean, good Lord, this shows how good I have it. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a solid match between Asuka and Emma. And I'm getting the two of them confused because they're kind of similar, you know.
Yeah, that is what it is. After this, what did we have? Elias was on his guitar. Him and Jordan got into a little scruff thingy with Bobbery. It was whatever.
The massive, insane descent of Jason Jordan after playing too many games of Fruit Ninja on his iOS phone.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you know, I like Elias. He's one of the few people on Raw that actually gets actual heel heat. So, you know, I mean, I don't really care about this, but it's at least not making me mad, so thumbs up, I guess. I don't know. After that, we had the Cruiser Tag match with Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann defeating Jack Gallagher and the Brian Kendrick.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this was one of the best matches on this show.
This was a fun little match.
Mm-hmm. This was an amazingly good tag team match. The heels had a classical story of trying to ground down the baby faces to make sure that they didn't do any of their flippy high-flying stuff. Gallagher just recently had a heel turn, and they're trying to restart the story because of the situation of things flipping around in the Cruiserweight division with the Enzo story. But Gallagher and Kendrick, they're actually a pretty solid tag team, and this was one of Kendrick's best matches in WWE because he didn't have to do the lion's share of the work. Alexander recently returned from a 3 to 5 month absence due to an injury, and which Swann has been dealing with injury issues all year with his foot. So they seem to be pretty good in this match. Alexander's got charisma. It's just that he needs to make sure not to get himself injured again. Otherwise, he's going to have a harder time trying to find a push. And Rich Swann is Rich Swann. He's a good cruiserweight. Good flippy cruiserweight.
Yeah, it was a fun little match. Everyone did their stuff well. You know, there was a couple big spots in it. The faces got the win. Everyone was happy. Good match. Cruiserweight division. I mean, it's sad how dead it is and how little reaction it gets, but they do good work. I mean, I feel bad.
Well, we enjoy their work personally, and that's really what's important in this situation.
It's just, it's kind of sad because I wish they got the recognition I feel they deserve, because, you know, a lot of people I talk to on the Twitter and stuff, I mean, they all say, you know, they're doing some good stuff. Guys like Gulak and his PowerPoint presentation, you know, there's some actual entertaining stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just no one cares. It's a damn shame.
Well, we care because we're reviewing this, and honestly,
well, yes, I know we care. I mean, the audience at large doesn't care, and that's a shame. I want them to care.
Sure.
I can't force them to care, but I wish they would care.
Sure, but past a certain point, and this is my philosophy when it comes to an audience or a crowd, they do what they do, and I will do what I will do. And honestly, the crowd reaction has never really impacted my thought process of the world of professional wrestling. I know that in a business sense, it probably should, because it tells you who's getting over and who isn't getting over, but it's sort of weird these days. It just seems as though the crowd reaction is probably one of the few things that you shouldn't be trusting, and instead should be focusing on something like merch sales or other stuff like that. It's becoming, because of the fact that certain people have said that, you know, the best wrestling is in Japan, I feel as though that a lot of the hardcore veteran fans are trying to imitate the Japanese audience as told by the, what would you call him? The guy that lives up atop of the mountain hermit known as Dave Meltzer. And I do appreciate what Dave Meltzer has done over the years, and that's something that should be said, is that he is an incredibly great historian. The thing is that there's this weird trend where everybody is trying to imitate or trying to become Dave Meltzer, which I find is incredibly strange. It's the same problem that I've had with professional wrestling, as far as like people trying to say that, oh, this person should be the next Stone Cold or the next John Cena. I'm like, I'm looking for the first person for insert name here. The first person for this, like the first Roman Reigns or the first, new talent. I'm not looking. I mean, the past is important in professional wrestling. Certainly, that is something that should be said. But at the same time, I'm also looking at who brings something new to the table of this professional wrestling. Who revives something and makes it interesting. Something from the past that hasn't been seen or done in years. And we are in a situation and in an era in 2017. I know this is kind of sounding like a bit of a weird tangent, but is it just me, or is it everybody impersonating Game of Thrones? Like, God, geez, everybody's trying to stab everybody else. It's like, it's complete and total madness. We've seen so much weird stuff happen in the world of wrestling in 2017. I mean, we thought that 2016 was a weird year, but 2017 is turning to be equally weird. Where we have the Cruiserweight division, the Cruiserweight division, we have that back, and, people should be excited and happy for it, but instead they're going, like, into this weird apathy, which is strange. I guess it could be a sign of the times, but like, I'm happy and excited for the Cruiserweight division, and nobody else is. And it's not me being a contrarian this time, or whatever else people think I do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder how much of it is because the Cruiserweight division has, for most of the time it's been around, been headed by a heel champion, because these things do matter.
Sure, but the problem is that you have some baby faces that are good, but I feel as though like guys like Tozawa, they're dealing with issues. Like Tozawa might be dealing with an arm injury, still dealing with that arm injury, which is why they haven't heavily pushed him as far as you want him to go, or as anybody else wants him to go. Alexander recently returned from an injury. It's just the Cruiserweight division's had a lot of bad breaks and a lot of weird stuff happening, like Neville quitting out of thin air. And then we should probably talk about the Cruiserweight match next, even though that was the fourth match on the card. Callisto versus Enzo Amore. Enzo won. Callisto is still as uncharismatic as ever.
Yeah, I mean, I know why he lost. I called it. I was like Babe Ruth calling my shot. They won it because it was on Eddie's birthday and Callisto was a luchador. That was the sole extent of Callisto's reign, to pay homage to a much more charismatic luchador. And look, I like Callisto. I do.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very capable luchador. He can actually do some fun lucha things. Are there people who do them better? Of course. There's guys like Volador Jr. and Dragon Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Love those guys. And Nabila Roja and Barbaro Cavernario.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But being completely fair to the man, he's probably the best luchador style wrestler in WWE right now. Mainly because we never see Grand Metalik.
Yeah. Grand Metalik is actually doing okay on main event, which is, he's had a few botches, he's had a few issues, but he's doing okay for what he's doing right now. I
won't be surprised if he gets released.
I honestly don't think they're going to release him yet. Or
I do.
I don't think they are, because I feel at this point that WWE wants to start working with CMML more closely.
Why would CMLL want to work with them? They got a good thing with New Japan going. And they get to abuse ROH. That's always fun.
Sure. But here's the thing. The door has always been open for WWE to get into a working relationship with them again, which is, which they would be happy with and WWE would be happy with. But, we'll have to see where it goes. But that's how I feel that they're going with, because they've been one of the few promotions that's generally had good relations with WWE and has actually benefited heavily from it.
Yeah, I guess. It will be interesting to see Necro Cassis in WWE, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, that would be crazy. But yes, the Cruiserweight Championship match, it was a match that happened.
Mm-hmm. It was a match. There weren't too many botches. There was, it was a match where Enzo won via cheating, which is how these things should go. And we move forward in the story of the Cruiserweight division with, once again, the Enzo is champion, but I don't feel he'll be champion for very long, or at least if he's going to be champion, he's going to be champion, and he's going to have to deal with a lot of series of challengers. So we'll see where this goes. I honestly am kind of excited about this. We'll see.
I'm over Enzo, but that's mainly because I find him to be an utter shit human being and who I want to die. Well, not die. I should say I want him to fail. I want him out of WWE. Mm-hmm. I hope all the bad things, short of severe illness, injury, or death, happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
I know this makes me a terrible person for wishing such things like homelessness, poverty, distraught, stuff like that on him, but
But he's committed, he's committed some things that, is something that would anger somebody like you and somebody like me as well. But at the same time, I'm going, well, this is perfect karma. Enzo is stuck at the top of the Cruiserweight division, and if he fails, he is going to fail spectacularly. Because the best place to put somebody in this position is to put them in a bad position. He's Cruiserweight champion. Good luck.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't noticed, that little purple belt is cursed just as badly as the Intercontinental Championship was a few years ago.
Yeah. It's a shame, but it is what it is. After that, before that, actually, because we went out of order,
was the strong style match between the monster known as Alexa Bliss and Mickie James.
Yep, it was a good little match. I mean, I feel like this should have been the last match these two had, but apparently this feud must continue for a reason. I don't really know why, but so be it.
Mm-hmm.
And the match itself was fine. I mean, I didn't really care for the feud. I mean, at least they had a story, although that story was utter stupidness. It was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the match was fine. Bliss got the win. James said she wasn't done, and she wasn't done because I guess she's challenged Alexa on Raw after I turned it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she punched her in the face. She didn't say a word. She just punched her in the. Actually, Mick kicked her in the face. She kicked her in the face and is now announced to yet another challenge, which is fine because of the fact that Alexa's next feud is actually Survivor Series, where she faces off against Natalya.
Yeah, so I don't. I mean, it'll be what it'll be. I mean, it'll be fine. That's really all I can say to it is it will be fine. It won't be anything utterly amazing. It shouldn't be anything too bad. It will just be there. It will be fine.
I am very positive about this match because I heard what Curtain Jerker said on Two Guys One Sport about this match. This was a strong style match that was incredibly enjoyable, and I personally agree with what he has said about this match. This was a very underrated match. This was Mickey's best match in WWE thus far. This was one of Alexa's better matches in WWE. And I feel like they really are starting to develop something nice with Alexa because she's getting better in ring slowly but surely. but she may be the one person out of all this crop of new individuals that might actually be the biggest surprise of them all. And I know that's a bit of an odd thing to say, given the fact that she's been Raw Women's Champion and SmackDown Women's Champion, but I feel like this is a person that is capable of turning the corner with the women's division. Not just Sasha Banks, not just Bayley, not just everybody else. Everybody else needs to work together. But Alexa is the one person in this division that can actively talk and can actually carry a feud. She is very much a tiny version of Jake the Snake Roberts. And that's, with her DDT and just her ability to cut promos right off the cuff.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, in order for the women's division to succeed, they all need to be together on this one, and they all need to work as a team. I didn't feel that, and I should say this as well, I didn't feel that necessarily with Emma, because she was part of the last generation of women's wrestlers that were employed by WWE. And those ones were the ones that started fighting hard for teamwork, where it was me, me, me instead of we. And it's working. This team thing is working. And the egos, there has been some egos. There has been some issues. I mean, Sasha, Charlotte, and a few others have had their egos pop up every now and again, but I feel like the women's division is turning a nice little corner, and it's progressing nicely at the pace I like it at. Of course, my pace and everybody else's pace is different,
Yeah.
Whereas,
well, I think it's more to do with the fact that it's 2017 now. We should be a lot better than what we have.
Sure, I get that. I understand that, but at the same time, I'm thinking at this situation that this is really starting to turn out really well, and I feel as though that a steady pace at this point is the best pace that we can have thus far. Not rushing into everything like a horde of barbarians going into a desolate, abandoned village, and then finding out that the village is ready to explode.
Yeah, I guess. And a shout out to a friend of the show, Ambrose Alley. She just informed me that we had 2 more recent releases. Darren Young and Summer Rae.
Okay, so the Chicago Bears now have a new starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they've put out everything from Todd Collins to a type 2 diabetic and Jake Cutler. No offense to the guy, but he's okay as a quarterback. So if they run out of quarterbacks, they've had Mike Glennon. There's this
God, Glennon was so bad. How much? I wonder if I think Curtin Jerker's listening. Hey, Curtin Jerker, if you could do me a favor and tell me how much are you guys paying Glennon a year again? Isn't it like 18 mil?
I think it's 15 mil actually.
Either way, it's so bad.
Well, in fairness to the guy, they have no offensive line to speak of. Their wide receiving core is horrible. They don't have a tight end that can block. And the only decent thing that they have right now on that side of the offense, besides the quarterbacks, is the running game.
Oh, yeah, they have a really good run game. That I do know. I almost feel bad for Chicago's run game. What the hell did they do to deserve such a crappy offense?
Because offensive linemen, for whatever reason, will not sign with the Bears or get constantly injured or don't know what a block is for whatever reason.
And again, I can't be too critical of them because the Lions' O-line is utter crap.
You're supposed to be. You actually have a winning record.
We're 3-3, and I thought we'd be better. I'm actually going to the game tonight too.
Oh, there's a game tonight?
Yeah, Lions against the Steelers at Ford Field at 8:30. That's where I'm going to be tonight. Hopefully we get the win.
All right, because it's Sunday. I'm so used to. I thought it was a Saturday night game or something.
No, I know. Yeah, I know. Things got weird. Like you said, I disappeared for 2 days inside the art museum.
Yeah. So there are 2 more releases. Darren Young. Okay. I like the guy, but he just wasn't working out with the company.
Yeah. I mean, I like Darren Young too, but the company didn't clearly have anything really for him.
Well, and his wrestling skills are Dolph Ziggler levels of average.
Yeah, it's a like you said, you don't really want to see people like that lose their job because they're good people. I mean, someone like Enzo, who's a crap human being, losing his job, I won't really cry a tear over. But a guy like Darren Young, who's by all accounts a very decent person, you know, good guy. So I kind of feel bad. It's a shame. But it's one I'm not surprised by because I don't think we've seen him on TV in close to a year now.
Well, it's because he had a really, really severe arm injury on main event where he basically broke, ligaments in his arm and all that kind of stuff, which took a long time for him to heal from. He was on the house show circuit, but I think they both mutually decided to part ways in this situation. Summer Rae, she'd also been on injured reserve for a long time, but I feel as though that she wanted to start getting into other interests besides the fact that possibly starting for the Chicago Bears, after all.
Yeah.
Like it's one of my long running gags where I feel as though that, okay, you've tried Todd Collins. That was a disaster. You've tried Rex Grossman. That was a disaster. You've picked everything from arena football players to college quarterbacks.
Oh,
why not give it the starting job to Summer Rae?
She'd probably do better than at least one of them. Although, when you mentioned the Arena Football League, that just reminded me of something. I remember way, way back when I was in like 3rd grade, and wow, we are getting very tangenty today, but screw it. It's our show. We can do what we want. Way back in like 3rd grade, I went to an Arena Football League game.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty fun. I hardly remember anything about it other than it being pretty fun, and the tickets were like $10 and being sold at my school for some reason.
That was the Detroit team in the 1990s. I think it was the Detroit Pilots.
Something like that. I can't remember. No, it would have been early 2000s, but it might have been the Detroit Pilots. I can't remember. But yes, it was what it was. And I mean, I do have to ask you this, though, while we're still on this little football tangent.
Yeah.
Which team has had worse QB struggles, Cleveland or Chicago?
I mean, the thing with Cleveland is that they constantly have quarterbacks that are injured, which it's not really necessarily their fault. It's just a cursed bad luck. Chicago's had some decent quarterbacks. It's just they don't have an offensive line or a scheme or a system that works for them. It's not the thing is that people forget about, and this is something I constantly yammer on about. Football is a team sport.
You don't say.
It's not just one person that will lead you to victory. It is a team effort because somebody has to catch the dang ball.
Yeah. I mean, with very few exceptions. I mean, maybe a guy like a Tom Brady, he can take an average team and probably turn them into a Super Bowl contender. But they're few and far between. And even then, you'd still need them to be average. You can't have them be dribbling shit.
Sure. But at the same time, like, I'm still surprised at the fact that, the Bills are 4-2?
Yeah. Aren't the Bills in the lead or like tied for the lead in the AFC East?
I believe we are.
How in the hell are you doing this?
I have no idea. It's probably some kind of mystical black magic at this point.
Yeah, just go with it, dude. I think Buffalo needs this.
Well, they have a decent team. We've actually found a decent coach for once, which is shocking in of itself. As far as everything else is concerned, I think that we're gonna do pretty decently. And if the Bears get Summer Rae as a quarterback, that's good for them because she will have to convert from the safety position to the quarterback position.
She can be good. I think she can make the transition all well and good. But anyway. After that, we had the final 2 matches, the ones that were affected by the plague.
Yes, we had Finn Balor versus AJ Styles, as AJ was a replacement for Bray Wyatt.
Really good match. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was my match of the night. I gave this one 4.25 stars. Really enjoyable. I mean, it was about 18-20 minutes, which... And in Sal's rules for wrestling, a match should usually go no longer than 25 minutes, and it should what's the word?
Optimally. Yeah.
It should optimally be around 20. That is what this match was, and that is one of the reasons why this match was awesome. Here's the thing. As much as a fan I am for New Japan, and I love the hell out of New Japan, I can go on saying all the nice things about New Japan for days and days and days and days and days. I'm not really a huge fan of the long 30-minute, 35-minute, 40-minute, epic main events they like to do. I get why they do it, but for me, and this is probably because before I decided to become a teacher, I was getting into journalism. And in journalism, you were taught to write very concisely and to the point. I honestly find a bit of beauty in that kind of writing and in that style of performance. It's sort of like you're cutting out everything that doesn't need to be there and getting right to the heart of the matter. I find there's sort of beauty in that. Mm-hmm. Not to get all like artsy and poncy over here, but mm-hmm. I do find something quite appealing in that and just getting straight to it, mm-hmm. being very direct. So that's kind of like why I don't like having a lot of fluff in matches.
Mm-hmm. So we have a match here against the Demon against the Phenomenal Hobo. In all honesty, I thought this was an enjoyable match, but the thing is that this kind of match is not really the kind of match that I'm usually interested in. I felt that there was a good action-packed match. There was a lot of great moves done between the two opponents, and Finn ended up winning. Yes. Which may or may not have been a good or bad thing, because first and foremost, they decided to do the Too Sweet on camera.
And because of that, from reporting we've heard, you know how Finn got utterly wrecked and destroyed by Kane on Raw? Mm-hmm. I remember that.
I remember it too.
Finn got utterly buried. And according to the reporting we've heard, it was because of that Too Sweet. Because apparently doing something your company owns and could actually be used as a shot against the Bucks. For some reason, this makes Vince mad.
I'm not, like I said in our little pre-show, I don't know if it's Vince this time. Vince likes this kind of anti-authoritarian stuff done in his company. Who might not like it in this situation, maybe Barros, Dunn, or somebody else within the company, because of course the legal team is going to probably start screaming their heads off about it, because again, they own the trademark, yes, but they're still embedded into the trademark lawsuit, and the lawsuit hasn't ended yet. We are in a situation right now where we have Finn doing this in front of a camera.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think it should have been enough for Kane to come and utterly bury the poor guy.
He only chokeslammed him 3 times, and it was as a way of protecting him. Besides the fact it was regular Finn, not Demon Finn, right?
It was, but even then, I don't really see it as protecting Finn, because it wasn't like he got up and didn't get, like, it's not like he took the choke slam, got up, fight a little, and fought a little bit. Kane choke slammed him again, and he did it again. It was one choke slam. That's like, no, you must suffer more. Another choke slam. No, you must suffer more. Another choke slam. Okay, now I'm gonna pin you, you geek. Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like to me. Mm-hmm. More like you didn't suffer enough yet, so now you must suffer more for your arrogance of too sweeting. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I'm not a fan of the thing, but good Lord, I don't think anyone needs to be getting buried over it.
I am more in the, this is something that we talked about in the, like I said in the pre-show, where we're of two minds of this. I'm in the wait and see camp at this point, because I look at this from this perspective. Feeney doesn't really have a lot of opponents right now that he can face against, where you first and foremost, we possibly have the fact that Bray's feud will be finally ending, which for Sal is good, but for me, I personally enjoyed the Bray Wyatt Finn Balor series, some of their best matches and best storytelling as far as...
That was not good storytelling!
I like campy, horror-fueled...
I know you do, but it was so bad. You had Bray Wyatt dressing in drag, which I'm sure was not offensive at all to the transgender community or the LGBT community. I'm sure they were just fine with that. Because WWE, they've always done stuff like that well. Remember that one time they worked with Glad only to pretty much give Glad the middle finger? That was real nice of them, wasn't it, WWE? Mm-hmm. Finn going on about Samhain or Samhain. I'm sure Taker's minion could tell me how to properly pronounce it if he was here. But, you know, I mean, I'm sure they got that. I hope they got that right, or else we're offending Wiccans and neo-paganists, which, you know, I don't know how many of them there are, but even then, I'm not really for offending people here. I don't want people to be offended by WWE and their stupidity. It was such a bad feud. It was, I mean, I know you like the over-the-top corny stuff, and I get why you liked it. And if you do like the over-the-top corny stuff, this was for you. Mm-hmm. For me, and I even like some over-the-top corny stuff. This was just bad, though. This, like, it didn't feel fun. It felt more stupid than fun. It's the best way I can put it. But
okay, so now I have to add 1950s movie aficionados for B movies onto the list of people that might maul us to death.
I love 1950s B movies.
I know, but you just went after the corny stuff, okay?
Well, I like
the invasion of the garbage trucks.
I like the corny stuff when it's done more silly than like stupid. I mean, it's a very delicate balance, but it's one of those things where it's like, I need it to be like the right kind of silly. Like the Bray Wyatt stuff, the Finn stuff, it didn't really work because they were taking it seriously. Like there was no like, it didn't feel like they were even attempting to be at least somewhat jovial with it. That's why it didn't really work for me. Like, and stuff like, you know, the Fashion Files, that's goofy and corny and silly, but it's supposed to be. WWE wanted me to take that Finn Bray stuff deadpan serious. That's why it didn't work. It's like, I'm not going to take a guy in pumpkin face paint and a guy wearing a dirty shawl calling himself Sister Abigail, probably offending the transgender community. Seriously, I'm not going to take that feud seriously. How could I ever take that feud seriously?
I can understand that. I mean, I can understand that from your perspective that you know, that this is a feud that, you know, you wouldn't take seriously. But the thing was, first and foremost, that third match didn't happen because of the bubonic plague that hit Bray Wyatt.
Yes, because God literally answered my prayers.
That's why I'm not being as hypercritical of the Bray Finn feud, because I'm only basing it based on the first two matches, which were really good matches and really decent storytelling. I know that the whole Halloweeny, you know, the feud with Sister Abigail versus a demon, and I'm like, okay, this is weird, but at the same time, I want to see where this goes. And that's the thing with me, is that I'm interested in seeing where this goes. And at this point, Finney needs a stopgap feud, and that stopgap feud is a guy who is faced off, who also decided to destroy another individual. I think the thing is right now is that they're trying to tell a War of the Monsters story with Finn. Finn faced against the first rung of the monsters, which was Bray Wyatt. Now he faces off against Kane. Then he faces off against Strowman, who might be a possibility in this situation now that Strowman is currently entombed in a garbage truck.
I honestly think Strowman's turning face. Because remember who put him in that truck? It was Miz, Kane, and the Bar. All heels.
Okay, so wait. Miz did something foolish? I remember Miz putting him in a garbage. I remember those four.
Well, I mean, Kane did it, but Miz sort of like abided by it. So, you know, he was complicit with it. Let's put it like that.
You do realize your fave is doomed when Braun Strowman comes back, right?
Oh, I know. I'm honestly half expecting Braun to be the one who takes the IC title off him. That is where I think they end up going with this. Kane's the stopgap for Braun, and Braun eventually takes the IC title off of Miz. So he has something to do while, you know, Roman and Brock are doing while the Roman Brock feud gets built up for Mania. Because, I mean, honestly, that is the one match we all know is going to happen. I'm not even mad that it's going to happen. I'm just saying we all know this is going to happen and nothing will change this. This is the one match that has been etched in stone from the beginning of the aeons of time.
The beloved Roman Reigns versus the Beast Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure the match I hope the match will be fine.
I think it will be good. I actually am really excited if that match comes to be.
If Brock cares, it will be good.
If Brock cares and Roman Reigns is, you know, 100% in that match, it'll be a great match.
Yep.
You know,
Speaking oh, sorry. Do you have any
continue.
thoughts on Finn, AJ, or do we want to move on to the main?
I thought, like I said before, I thought it was a good match. Thought it was an enjoyable match, but like this is not necessarily the kind of match that I'm interested in. But it was a good stopgap, temporary feud and both individuals can go off in different directions.
Yeah. After this, we had the main event. It was Kurt Angle stepping in for the sick Roman Reigns because, like I said at the top of the show, the plague giveth and the plague taketh away. So in exchange for them getting rid of Bray Wyatt and helping me out, they had to take Roman Reigns out, which it was a shame because, you know, I kind of wanted to see the Shield reunited. But even then, the match itself, in terms of in-ring, like I said, it was an average match, maybe even below average. Kurt Angle got taken out early on. You know, it was a cluster, really. There wasn't a lot. There was a bunch of stuff going on. Not all of it really made sense. I mean, like we said, the 4 other heels put Braun in a truck.
Because they finally saw an opportunity to finally get rid of the monster among men via garbage truck. Let's see how this works out.
Yeah, and, you know, it was what it was. They took out Kurt Angle, or Braun took him out. He was gone for most of the match. And then he made his big triumphant return, and they hit the Shield bomb on Miz for the win. And you know what? The crowd loved Kurt's triumphant return as he came back to help Dean and Seth as they were getting their asses kicked. He kicked 5 guys' asses, well, 4, hit the Shield bomb on him, on Miz, and they got the win. They sent the crowd home happy, and you know what? I could do nothing but applaud this match for that. Because like I said at the top of the show, in this year in WWE, most of the pay-per-views have ended with a heel winning and the crowd going home disappointed. Or ended in a fuck finish. This match, this show, it ended with the babyfaces standing tall after a babyface made a triumphant badass return after being taken out early in the match. And they got the win in a decisive and clean manner. Great. I am glad for this. I mean, I know some people were like, the match itself wasn't very good. And you know what? You're right. In terms of technical stuff, in terms of moves and all that, psychology, it wasn't a very good match. But I would rather take the crowd going home happy and getting a huge pop for a badass, triumphant babyface beatdown, you know, than have a 5-star classic with the heel winning and the crowd going home disappointed. But that's just me.
I feel like in 2017, the main event stuff has always been very interesting to me, and I feel as though that there's been a lot of different kinds of main events this year in WWE. This match was really fun. It was a fun, enjoyable car crash of a match that was Braun getting stuffed into a dumpster, Kane returning to try and destroy Roman Reigns, only then Roman Reigns gets sick with the bubonic plague. Thank you, Papa Shango, for doing that. And then, of course, you have The Miz trying to prove his dominance over everybody else by being the best that there is or whatever that is. It's kind of funny. Miz's run right now is kind of reminding me of late 90s Bret Hart when he was in WWF, when he was the World Wrestling Federation champion, where he was so arrogant and obnoxious about, you know, how he was so much better than everybody else was. The Miz is kind of doing that run right now on Raw. And the Bar, you know, they wanted to get vengeance on Dean and Seth for Cesaro's teeth and for losing the tag team championships.
Yep.
And everything seemed to work together in a really cohesive fashion. And everything led up to the next, you know, the next segment, which was, of course, Raw. I mean, Kurt Angle got his victory, but that also gives us a very interesting parallel into the final of feud. Now, I personally enjoyed TLC. I thought it was a really good show. It wasn't near the top. It wasn't near the top 5 like the last pay-per-view, which is Hell in a Cell. I know, still a shock that I consider that show in my top 5.
That show was bad. This show, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Continue.
No, I'm cutting you off a lot today. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. You know, honestly, I feel as though that this show was good. You know, I like my expectations You know, Sal says he has low expectations. I have even further low expectations. I don't expect anything to go right on these wrestling-related shows because I am trusting wrestlers to not screw up. And creative people to not screw up, and writing teams to not screw up, and do all this other stuff. See, that's how it is with me. I'm like, okay, there's one positive here. There's also about 99,575 other faults that could potentially go wrong and could potentially make this match go horrible. TLC, good match, good show, overall show, and I'm glad that they condensed the TLC gimmick into one particular match instead of having just individual TLC tables, ladders, and chairs matches.
I think it could have been fun to have a couple other like maybe one or two other matches have one of the gimmicks. But, you know, I mean, like I'll say this, the show as a whole, most of it was average and forgettable, but there was a couple good matches on it. The crowd got sent home happy. I can't ask for more than that.
And plus, the secondary divisions, like the women's division and the cruiserweight division, got showcased here in a very big way. You know, this was a make it or break it for them, and I feel like they made it in this situation. And I feel like the things moving forward into Survivor Series, into Clash of Champions, and into the Royal Rumble are actually fairly decent right now.
Yep. I mean, it could be a lot better. There's a lot of stuff I'm down on, but at the same time, I guess it could be worse. Maybe. And there's a couple more segments we need to talk about. We talked about most of the stuff on Raw. We still have the big SmackDown invasion.
Yes, the invasion. And this is where the story... I know that, Sal, in the pre-show, you said that you're very much down on this.
Yeah. Let me say this first. On the one hand, I won't bury this as much as I could because if their goal was to get SmackDown a good rating off of this, they succeeded with that. SmackDown got a 2.7. So it at least popped a rating for SmackDown. They got like 200,000 more viewers compared to like the weekly average because of this invasion. So I'll give WWE credit for this. While I didn't really care for it, it at least got you guys some interest. There's a few issues I have with this. First was AJ Styles. AJ Styles was more than fine with tagging with Dean and Seth earlier in the night. Hell, he was fine with going to Raw to help out Kurt Angle earlier the previous night too. And then when SmackDown goes around attacking everybody, AJ's just all up in this and decides to attack Dean and Seth. I mean, all for brand loyalty, which we've never really seen built up at all. It's just confusing. It's like, so you're fine with tagging with these people. Hell, he saw them getting attacked by Kane and tried to help them earlier in the night, but now you're attacking them?
Well, remember the segment. Dean and Seth actually attacked the SmackDown roster first as they went for their rampage.
Well, no, they didn't. I remember watching. Well, I watched the clip at least because I didn't watch it live because I had work on this past Monday morning. So, you know. But when I saw it, it was AJ and them attacked. Like AJ started attacking Dean and Seth without any provocation. So
I remember Dean jumping through the air and attacking the entirety of the roster, and Seth sneak attacking to attack them as well on the clip I saw.
I'd have to rewatch it, but I do remember them attacking them, and they were attacking a bunch of Raw people for no reason. Faces and heels alike. Becky Lynch, who was supposedly a really good-hearted babyface, is attacking people she probably considered her friends. I mean, if any of the Four Horsewomen stuff is something to go off of, for nothing more than brand loyalty that has never been built up. I'm fine if you guys want to have your if you want to make Survivor Series into like a Raw versus SmackDown thing. Hell, I actually think that's a pretty good idea for the show. Considering it's all about teams and stuff. It's at least an easy way to get to that. But at the same time, you gotta build it up more than this. You need to have at least a couple months build to something like that. You can't just expect all of us to suddenly care about this like right when you want to. You need to build it up. You can't be like, oh yeah, these two things that have it's like two countries who have largely been neutral and not interfering with each other. All of a sudden go to war over something stupid, and now we're supposed to care. and it's like, and they're going to war mainly because, you know, like the Kings are fighting over something stupid, like I don't know, like
golden shoelaces. Let's go with golden
sure,
shoelaces.
yeah, golden shoelaces. Like they can't agree on how much gold should be in their shoelaces. We'll say that. And they go to war over that, and suddenly everyone gets really into it. And then we all know right after this, they're all going to go back to being non-interacting with each other. It makes no sense whatsoever. It is so confusing. The characters' alignments. I mean, why in the hell was Baron Corbin helping Shane McMahon? He hates Shane. Why didn't he himself has also said he doesn't give a damn as long as he's getting paid? Why would he do this?
There we go. There's the plot, Fred. Pay.
I don't see how anyone is getting any money out of this. I mean,
no. In the kayfabe sense, Shane bribed Baron with extra money or a shiny new motorcycle to engage in this conflict.
I hope they establish this.
Oh, I think they certainly will. I think they certainly will on the heel side, at least, because the heel side will probably brag about their payments. Baron Corbin getting a shiny motorcycle and Rusev getting a large field of yaks.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, and then we had the Shane thing, which you had an interesting take on this, and it's one I can see, but for me, it still kind of doesn't work. The Shane thing is weird, mainly because it creates two Shane McMahons. One Shane McMahon on SmackDown is supposed to be this face who was wrongly attacked and is being accused of doing all sorts of terrible things by Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who are supposed to be dastardly heels. Correct? This is the story on SmackDown. I'm not wrong here, am I?
I mean, they are trying to shift the direction at this point to Shane as a heel at this point, but they're actually trying to tell a story here.
Yeah. Well, that's where they were before this happened, right? Like before this happened, it was Sammy and Kevin were mad at Shane because they feel he's improperly keeping them down, interfering, and doing all these bad things.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Shane does this sneak attack on Raw to Kurt Angle, who, yes, he's feuded with in the past, but they have never once brought this up.
Oh, they brought it up subtly in backstage segments, but the thing is that you mentioned before that this needed a long time to build. The trouble is they've already done that sort of stuff beforehand. So they have become increasingly paranoid, the creative team, as well as everybody else in WWE, with doing long-term builds leading to something. They needed to be subtle and sneaky about this, because if they just did the same old invasion angle, there would be numerous people complaining about it online, which they usually do.
Well, I'm not really complaining about it being an invasion. I'm more complaining that, like, they've hardly ever talked about each other. I don't think we've ever heard SmackDown say anything about Raw ever since like last year. I mean,
that was the intention, because they needed to build up both brands first and then continue on. Because the thing is that if you look at WWE's history, they have done these. SmackDown is better than Raw, or Raw is better than SmackDown. If you look at the Ruthless Aggression era in particular, that is a heavy theme within the storyline context of the shows. The trouble is that the writers didn't want to tread on old ground, and they wanted to do this subtly and sneakily. They decided to go with the Shane McMahon bringing his army to the gates of whatever capital city you're coming up against, to the gates of Constantinople, and invade the city.
I guess I didn't really like Shane's explanation, though, which was just because whenever you get into a fight, you strike first. It's like, wow, you're a total dick.
Of course he is.
Kevin and Sammy were right about you. And this is apparently possibly leading into a Daniel Bryan strife feud mini thingy. I swear to God, this is just what we needed. More organizational middle management infighting. This is just what I want on my wrestling. Middle management infighting.
Sure, but it's been a while since they last did a middleman in
because
fighting
it's a
storyline.
bad idea that should never be done, and it's only
Unless, of course, Daniel's leaving, which in this case is completely acceptable.
Please, Daniel, leave and go to CMLL. Do that beard versus mask match against Atlantis and save us all already. Please, I'm begging you. Get out of this sinking ship while you still can.
Okay, once again, folks, if you're keeping your tally of Sal going insane during the broadcast, then, well, click another notch.
Go! Daniel, leave! I mean, hell, Ricochet saw the light and he's like, nope. Well, that and WWE lowballed them because WWE is WWE and WWE will do stupid things. And, wow, I am going insane right now, but man.
Click another notch, folks! Click another notch!
Yeah! I swear to God, I feel like you ever see the Rocky Horror Picture Show where they're like, let's do the time warp again? I feel like I'm just warping back and back and back into my insanity over and over again.
I have never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I've heard of it.
Oh, it's actually really fun. It's a fun movie. I really enjoyed that movie. Tim Curry was absolutely amazing in it.
Yes, I've heard of Tim Curry and his character.
Yes.
Like,
I think you'd like it. It's goofy and over the top. It's something I think you would like.
You know, this feud to me, like, so you've the first point, second point, any other points about this invasion story from you, Sal?
I don't really get why. Like, I mean, if they further explain, like, Shane's been bribing them all to fight, fine.
Yeah.
Although I'm still a bit confused as to why, you know, the heels and faces would get along so well together and do this just out of brand loyalty. It just doesn't really make any sense because it hasn't really been built up. I get wanting to build it up sneakily, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel like they've done that more than the fact they just like, oh crap, we have the Raw vs. SmackDown show coming up. Better make this important. Let's do it now. You know, I guess that's what it feels like. Something else I didn't like was that Chad Gable just immediately went up, and I think it was Jason Jordan. I couldn't really tell, but I'm pretty sure it was him based on the trunks because he had a towel on his head. He just immediately attacked Jason Jordan. I thought their breakup was amicable, relatively speaking. You know, I mean...
Shelton Benjamin is starting to become a corrupting influence to dear Gable here.
Oh, jeez. It is what it is. I mean, I mean, at least they're doing something with some history, but even then it kind of feels off. I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking that part to death, but as a whole, it at least generated interest in SmackDown. But there were some real issues with it for me, at least.
I actually really have enjoyed this invasion storyline, much like my strange enjoyment of this Finn-Kane feud, which is just a stopgap feud, kids. It's just going to be Kane going to be coming in here for a few months, and then he's going to... Kane is going to help some guy named Glenn Jacobs run for mayor.
Yeah. By that, I mean he should.
Yeah.
No, here's what we need to do, okay? We need to take Kane, tell him, thanks, Glenn, for all you've done. We don't need you here anymore. Go and be mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee. Just go. Turn it into your libertarian happy dream paradise. Go. Do it. Be gone. Out of my company. Why are you getting Finn? Out. Leave.
Notch another one, folks. So anyway, this story I feel is a really good story. The context that I pointed this out in the pre-show to Sal. Kurt Angle won his match at TLC. He got to revel in the glory and the celebration of winning against the insurmountable odds. Shane McMahon at Hell in a Cell, he lost. He lost to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who decided to interfere. Shane is looking for payback. And the only way that he knows how to do payback, because he is a McMahon, is to strike against an individual that he's had issues with in the past. Kurt Angle, in a moment of weakness, was kind and friendly to Shane. You are never kind and friendly to a McMahon because they see that as a moment of weakness. Shane McMahon amassed his army at the gates of Constantinople and decided to preemptively strike against Raw, which is a role reversal. Usually Raw is the aggressor in these Raw versus SmackDown feuds. This time, SmackDown was the aggressor in this feud. Shane bribed a numerous amount of heels with shiny motorbikes and a field full of yaks to aid them in this conquest. And plus a large amount of anime for the New Day, because they're the New Day.
Oh, jeez. They had to bribe the New Day with anime. Xavier, how could you sell out? Come on, man. Did he at least, like, he better have at least gotten you, like I'm talking, like, full box DVD sets, like the good kind, too, you know?
From Japan.
Yeah, like, and with, like, you know, like the things that come with subs. And I'm talking like official releases that cost like $200 for some obscene reason. I'm not making this up either, folks. I once looked into maybe buying an anime box set because I wanted to support a physical release, mainly because I mainly use a lot of like streaming sites that are, let's just say, of dubious legality. You know, like they're not the official releases. Let's put them like that. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should give back. And there was an anime I really liked called Death Parade. I looked into maybe getting like the DVD set of it. It was like $189 for a 12 episode anime. That's like a 4-hour total show. So
after all this, because here's the thing, they established Shane McMahon's gimmick is that he is the money. He is the guy that has money, and therefore he naturally bribed most of the SmackDown roster to aid him in this invasion, or those who had personal reasons for the attack upon the Raw roster. Now, this obviously has the goal of several things. First, it weakens the stranglehold on the Pawn over on the Raw side. Kurt Angle has a lot more pressure on him now because of this preemptive SmackDown strike, because, again, we have the other problem. The demon Stephanie may be rising once again from the Lazarus pits.
Oh, joy. Just what we needed. More authority. Can we please be done with that?
Sure, they've been trying to get away from that, but in the storyline for Survivor Series, a one-off appearance by Stephanie in this situation is effective for the story.
If it's going to be a one-off, fine, but I'm pretty sure this is ending to Triple H's return later on too.
Oh, so, goody! There's a sight for sore eyes.
I know. Well, that's the issue here. I'm done with the authority. I'm really done with, you know, just. I guess I'm just done with all of the authority figures for right now. That's what I liked about SmackDown early on when Shane and Daniel, yeah, they were a part of the show, but they weren't really feuding with anyone. They were just there to make the matches. I mean, the most you could say was Daniel had like his pseudo feud with The Miz, but they were cutting like all-time great promos and it kind of worked. And the face was the authority, not a heel. You know, and now we have the Shane stuff and all that. It's just like,
it makes a lot of sense to me because here's the thing. Daniel Bryan traded for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So now we have a situation where we have Daniel facing off against Shane because Shane feels as though that it's Daniel's fault for bringing these problems into his life. Bringing these people who humiliated him at Hell in a Cell by beating him via underhanded classic McMahon tactics. And if there's one thing a McMahon hates is somebody using their own tactics against them. So now Shane is going on a vengeful warpath trying to prove, again, his superiority over Kurt Angle, who he's had feuds with in the past. AGD King in the Ring 2001 match. And we then also have the Daniel Bryan versus Shane situation, where Daniel Bryan is getting chastised and ripped apart by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and now he's getting ripped apart by Shane McMahon. Because Daniel did not agree to this invasion idea that Shane had.
Of course he didn't, because Daniel is the one babyface they have left, because Becky Lynch went along with that bull crap. Sorry, Becky, you're no longer the altruistic babyface. You are a former shell of yourself. You are dead to me. Becky Lynch, the character, is dead to me.
Oh. So, basically, she became Tommaso Ciampa.
Don't you dare bring that name up on this show. You know that rule. Don't you dare bring that heartless bastard's name up on this show. How...
Names on the marquee, but besides that,
we don't talk about him ever. He is the one who shall not be named. To blatantly steal from what's her name? J.K. Rowling, I think. I can't remember anymore. But yes,
he who must not be named, which is basically, I never got that out of the whole, to go on the side tangent here, I never got that whole he must not be named thing. The Voldemort
I guess it was
thing.
because, like, when you say Voldemort, bad stuff happens, or it's like considered a curse or something. I didn't really get it either. But then
again, it's like, it's the Harry Potter series as a whole is just such one of those series that's just, it has like so many different writing issues. I like Rowling as a writer to an extent, but her characterization is very basic. You have the Gryffindor people who are the proud and noble, brave people. The Ravenclaws don't get really much characterization. The Hufflepuffs are the lovable losers, and Slytherin is evil.
yeah.
Which even she admitted, because the latest protagonist in the Harry Potter films has been the Slytherins.
Yeah. I know. I will agree to that, although I will say she was right. I mean, I haven't really read the books, but if we're going based off, if the movies are any accurate, adaptation.
Not bad. They're not bad. I mean, we've seen them multiple times. My dad has the box set of.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I've seen them all multiple times myself, or at least once each. I think I've seen, oh, geez. The third movie? There was this one weekend or week I was stuck in an RV. And like there was no satellite or anything to it, and the only movie we had in there, there was a TV, and the only movie we had in there was the third Harry Potter movie,
The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes. If you've ever wanted to know, like, try and memorize a movie as well as I have with that one at that time, just watch it. I watched that probably, I don't know, at least 20 times over the course of that weekend, however long it was. Good Lord, I never need to see that movie again.
Especially since that film is kind of, it's like, I feel like that one is like the 5th or 6th best film on the whole trilogy.
It's definitely an underwhelming one, to be sure. It isn't a bad film by any means, but it's like, it's not very, well, I shouldn't say it's not very good. It's a fine movie. It's just compared to everything else, it isn't very good.
So we have this whole SmackDown invasion angle, Becky Lynch possibly planting the seeds of potentially turning heel on SmackDown at some point.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing anymore. It's almost like that invasion angle happened in a Bizarro universe.
But then again, it kind of fits because it's like, it kind of reminds me of like those propagandas TVs from like the Soviet era.
That's exactly what it is, dude. Like we're watching propaganda TV on one end and on the other. Like,
hail for glorious SmackDown! Righteous ruler Shane McMahon gloriously conquers Raw.
Yeah, it's sort of what happened. And then they go back to all fighting each other, and then we'll see them attack Raw again, or Raw will attack them, and it's just weird. I have no idea what to make of any of this. I mean, at least it's generating interest, I guess, which WWE desperately needs. So, thumbs up there. But
and also on Raw, Brock Lesnar laughed at Jinder Mahal's challenge and plans to turn him into curry powder.
Of course he did. Oh, that's the other thing we need to talk about. Why are they doing? I get why they're doing all these matches because champion versus champion. Here's the thing. That's the one match you shouldn't do. Because here's what will happen. One of two things will happen. One, Brock will lose, thereby making all of the buildup you've done with him utterly and totally pointless. Because he's supposed to be the one who only gets pinned by Roman Reigns at Mania. That is the end game. That is what we're going for.
You really think that they're going to... I mean, I thought about this last night. You really think that they're going to have Jinder Mahal, of all people, pin Brock Lesnar?
No, I don't. But here's the other issue, though. So that's issue one. If we want it like that and Brock loses, that's that issue. You've rendered all the buildup you've done for Brock useless. Here's what's likely going to happen. Brock is going to insta-murder, death kill Jinder and make him look like a total chump because Brock will not care. Why would he? He's explicitly said he doesn't care. Hell, he called Jinder a pretender and all that, which, I mean, He kind of is. He's not good. But think of it like this. Look at all of the people Jinder has beaten. Randy Orton.
Via underhanded tactics.
He still beat him. Shinsuke Nakamura.
Via underhanded tactics.
He still beat him. I mean, yes, yes. Were they all underhanded? Of course they were. Yes, he still beat them. How crap does it make them look?
I mean, Orton's doing okay, and Nakamura's doing okay.
Nakamura's in mid-card hell, and Orton and Sammy are doing 50-50 booking bullcrap. This is not good. You've essentially made all of the sacrifices to Jinder meaningless. This is the one match you shouldn't have run, man. Either way, you're not going to come out of this looking good. You're either burying one brand or the other. I mean, like, another insanity point.
Oh, okay. Sal's doing it now again. Okay, so I have no issue with this match because I feel like this match will actually be fairly decent. Jinder's ring work has been decent. Look, I know it's not great right now, but if this leads to the story, if Jinder loses, if this leads to the story where somebody on the SmackDown side of the roster takes the belt away from him, which it might at Clash of Champions.
I swear, I was thinking about this because that's the next SmackDown pay-per-view, and it happens right after the India tour. If they hold off AJ's challenge until then and have him take the belt off him there, I will be so happy.
And it also tells the story of Jinder failing to get it done for SmackDown, which will then cause Shane to do something crazy, which will put AJ Styles into the championship match versus Jinder Mahal. Because right now they have AJ going through Jinder's grunts in the Singh's brothers at this point. Right now,
instantly
the story.
Murdering one of the Singhs, yes. So, I hope.
They are actually doing a fairly decent build on this one right now. I think that they might be transitioning the belt back to AJ Styles.
Please, God, let this be true. I want that to be true so badly. And here's the thing, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I know there's a lot of people of color who actually like having Jinder as their champion because they can relate to him. And you know what? And they feel represented by him. You know what? I totally get that. I completely understand you liking him. And you know what? I am glad you have a champion that you feel better represents you and you feel better represented by. I have nothing but love and respect for that because you know what? Hell, everyone wants that. Everyone wants to have a champion they feel more represented by. I get that. My issue is not with any of that. It's just that he's so bad to me. He's decent at best in the ring and more, and in my case, he's really more mediocre. I mean, he can't really cut a promo. He tries really hard, but he isn't very good. I don't want to be mean to him. It's just, he just doesn't work for me. And part of me feels bad saying that because I know there's a lot of people who actually do like him and who do feel like, it's a good change. And I get that. And I don't know. It just isn't working for me. And it clearly isn't working for a lot of people because SmackDown attendance has been way down. They can barely sell 5,000 seats a show. I mean, their ratings have been down compared to last year by about 100,000 viewers. So, there's some issues there with him as champion. How much of it is because he's really bad and how much of it is because it's the typical heel champion thing, I don't know. But, it's something I feel needs to be changed. But there it is. I don't know. I don't know what my point with all that was. Maybe it was just trying to say, I understand why people like him, but he really isn't working for me, and I'm at least trying to meet them halfway. I mean,
I think in this situation, I think you realized over the last month or few months or so, when you're talking about this Jinder push, that you may have been harsh on it to an extreme degree, and that might offend some viewers. And I appreciate that you're trying to say, look, I get it, I understand it, I appreciate it that you like it. It's just, it's not for me.
It is not for me at all. And it's not for a lot of people, but I know there are people who do like it.
I mean, certainly I've had very little issue with the Jinder Championship run thus far. There have been some issues with it, and there's been some things we have rightfully complained about. But again, we have a clear path to possibly having a new champion at Clash of Champions.
I hope so. There's also been some speculation that it'll be Cena taking it off Jinder, possibly at the Rumble or at Mania.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Cena thing's weird, namely because I don't even know if he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's sort of the expectation is that he'll be back for Mania, but I don't know if he will be because he might be off filming or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We'll see what John Cena does. In the meantime, Nikki Bella has been literally destroying her competition, both literally and figuratively.
Did she get eliminated in Dancing with the Stars yet, or is she still on?
No, she's still here.
Oh, okay, because I know she was in the bottom a couple weeks ago, so there was like some concern.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, that was the week that was WWE, and honestly, it looks like a pretty interesting week. Overall, good week overall for WWE. NXT was really good. All that was all good. War Games is happening. That's happening.
That I am looking forward to. I haven't been able to keep up with NXT mainly because, and here we go back into the crazy life of Sal. I have an econ class from 6:30 to like 10 at night on Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because it was all that was available when I was registering. Because apparently when I went for my orientation and registration in July, because I was a transfer student to my new college this year, the students who were already at my college, they could register all the way back in March, in either late March or early April. There was not a lot of classes left. So, you know, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But my annoyance at that aside, yeah, the week in WWE, it was meh for me. There was a lot of stuff I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, TLC exceeded my expectations and by actually being a decent show, so I won't bury that too bad.
Mm-hmm.
The most important show delivered, I'll put it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. Do you have any? Oh yeah. Do you have any final thoughts, Fizzy? And then we'll do our plugs.
I thought the TLC was overall a really solid show, and I felt that this week in WWE was a very solid experience overall. I personally enjoyed the invasion angle. I even enjoyed the Finn Kane segment. May I burn for that. But overall, it's getting a good week for WWE in the mad land of McMahon, which is good for them because, well, let's see here. Our plugs this week. Now, everybody kind of had some scheduling issues or some weirdness happen to them this week on the podcasting front. Crazy Chris 576, aka Chris Kogan, he had a sore throat on Two Guys One Sport, but they were able to get their broadcast done. They are at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays, along with Curtain Jerker. And then they're Shooting the Breeze, which they had to reschedule as well. They had to do their show on Saturday, but their normal time slot is on Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Taker's Minion and MDS.
Yep.
So, next week, Sal, do you want to know what next week is?
What is next week?
Oh, tomorrow they're releasing the Banzuke.
Oh, yes. Tomorrow we go back to sumo.
Oh my goodness. We have the Winter Basho. Yes, It's been a while since we've last talked about sumo because Diaki Basho was back in September, but sumo is returning, folks.
Yep.
This upcoming week, we have a preview of the Winter Basho.
Yep. Plus any odds or ends we feel like talking about from WWE.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I believe we'll be back on our usual time on Fridays, but we'll let you know if things change.
Yep. I plan on being back. We plan on being back on Friday, but knowing my school and work schedule, things could very easily change. It should be good, though.
Mm-hmm. And my schedule as well. I'll also make sure to keep that in mind. But until then, this has been episode 32 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling, the invasion of the garbage trucks, TLC reactions. But this has been William Fitzpatrick. You can follow me on Twitter at Fitzpatrick14.
And I've been Sal Cusmano. You can follow me at Cusmano_Sal.
And we thank you so much for listening in on this edition of the show, particularly Ambrose Alley, who was talking in the live thread. We appreciate that you joined us for this edition of the show.
Yep. That's it. That about does it for us. Have a good day, everybody.
Yep. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you this upcoming week for a preview of the Winter Basho, the Crucio Basho. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen, and see you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.